2 years ago, I blogged a list of 13 Wicked albums to set the mood for Halloween. This year, I've decided to cover something truly scary and disturbing. Christian fucking black metal. For those who may be unfamiliar with it, the black metal genre has its roots in the occult and satanic stylings of metal bands such as Venom, Merciful Fate, Bathory, and Hellhammer, but really started to take on its own form in Scandinavia during the early 1990s, with acts like Mayhem, Burzum, Darkthrone, Immortal, and Emperor. Musically, the style typically involves tremolo-picked distorted guitars, fast yet minimalistic drumming, screaming vocals, and lower production quality. Black metal is distinct from death metal in that it often has simpler song structures, higher-pitched shrieking as opposed to guttural growling, and a heavier sense of ideology in its emphasis on both musical atmosphere and visual imagery. The rise of black metal in the 1990s was accompanied by multiple church burnings and murders. In 1994, during all of the chaos of the growing movement, Nuclear Blast Records released an album entitled Hellig Usvart, Norwegian for Holy Unblack. It was the work of one man calling himself Anonymous, going under the band name Horde, and would spawn an entire subgenre of Christian black metal known as Unblack metal. The record succeeded in pissing off black metal musicians and fans everywhere, and even led to death threats against the album's producer. It's been said that if you say the name Horde 3 times in front of a mirror, you can still hear the faint cries of angered music purists. You may be wondering, why in Helvete would a Christian want anything to do with black metal? Certainly the genre has been immersed in darkness since the very beginning, and jumping on the bandwagon of a scene that includes burning places of worship and killing others over differences in worldview doesn't seem like a good PR move for Christianity. At least not in this century. But perhaps we see here something like what the late Christopher Hitchens meant when he observed that religion poisons everything. Though I hesitate to use the metaphor, Hellig Usvart is the faith virus attempting to spread itself into a new host. Or, if you prefer, it's an example of a particular reading of the Great Commission put into aggressive action. Before I'm accused of poisoning the well, let's consider the music on the album, ignoring the lyrics for a moment. Comparisons are always made between this record and the music of Darkthrone, primarily A Blaze in the Northern Sky and Under a Funeral Moon. The similarities are all over. There's the buzzsaw guitar tone, the minimalist drum beats, the fuzzy and reverb-laden sound job, the raspy vocal shrieks, the blasting sections, the washed-out black and white cover art, the icy and tentacled logo, and lots more. Essentially, Horde is a Christianized Darkthrone, and a shitty one at that. I'm generally not one to care about an album or band being derivative, except in cases where the imitation is weak, and so pervasive as to border on plagiarism. I won't say that there aren't good riffs and rhythms on Hellig Usvart. Thine Hour Has Come and Release and Clothe the Virgin Sacrifice, lol, have some decent head-banging moments to them, but even the best parts of the album can't hold a candle to the innovators they shamelessly copy. Much of the music relies on boring-ass power chord progressions that feel recycled over the course of the record, and have more in common with death metal and doom. This is not surprising given that Jason Sherlock, the ex-drummer for the Christian death metal band Mortification and the doom band Paramecium, has openly admitted to being the man behind Horde. It wouldn't be inaccurate in the slightest to say that were it not for the bizarre curiosity of the message on Hellig Usvart, this album would have been lost to the funeral fog of history. I genuinely enjoy a lot of black metal, especially this kind of underground old-school style, with some limitations. I'd probably sooner listen to Horde than Il Yarn, but what Horde is missing is not insignificant. The 18th century philosopher Edmund Burke argued that the source of the sublime is terror. The highest and surest measure of its presence is the experience of astonishment or delightful horror. What black metal has going for it, the unrepentant blasphemy, the unrelenting chaos, are the same things rejected and disparaged on Hellig Usvart. Unblack it may be, but even this concession doesn't grasp the full picture. Not all media can be separated from its message and still have the same effect and power. There's something absurd about the idea of fascist punk rock, neo-Nazi reggae, or atheist gospel music, even under a different label. The message informs the musical style in punk, reggae, gospel music, and black metal, just as the gospel message informs the literary story of Christ's death and resurrection found in the Bible. Divorcing the aesthetic of black metal from the message that shaped it, and using it along with another message diametrically opposed to it, would be like using the symbolism of the Last Supper to actually endorse the practice of cannibalism. Christian black metal is not unblack, so much as it's ideologically conflicted. Of course, there is shitty black metal, and there are some worthwhile unblack albums, like Crimson Moonlight's The Covenant Progress and Antester's The Forsaken, but to what extent the latter managed to cultivate any kind of atmosphere quite like that of their darker counterparts is open for debate. It seems telling that the so-called unblack scene has been unable to come up with an answer to the likes of Deathspell Omega, Bluthaus Nord, Watain, Catharsis, and other more recent acts taking the genre to further depths. With its antagonizing, defiantly pro-Jesus lyrics and blandly contrived music, Hellig Usvart stands as another example of a Christian musician placing message before music and failing to really understand what they're Christianizing merely for the sake of evangelism. Verily it doth deserve one abominable pentagram, one inverted cross, and one pair of bloodied goat horns.